Starting us off today is Fenn's treasure. Fenn's treasure is, as the name suggests, a stash of treasure hidden by the art dealer Forrest Fenn. When Fenn received a likely terminal cancer diagnosis in 1988, he decided to start a treasure hunt as his last hurrah. He even debated having that place be his grave, but against all odds, he survived his battle with cancer and decided to put out a self-published memoir in 2010. With more information on the treasure in his memoir. He described the cache as containing gold nuggets, rare coins, jewelry, and gemstones, totaling to a price of about $2 million. He also gave clues in the memoir and a general location for the treasure. He said it was in the mountains somewhere north of Santa Fe. This caused a large chase for his treasure to begin, lasting until June 6, 2020, when a young man named Jack Stuff would find the chest, and Fenn would call an end to the search by posting this to a blog called Thrill the Chase. It was under a canopy of stars in the lush, forested vegetation of the Rocky Mountains, and had not moved from the spot where I hid it more than 10 years ago. I do not know the person who found it, but the poem in my book led him to the precise spot. I congratulate the thousands of people who participate in the search and hope they will continue to be drawn by the promise of other discoveries. So the search is over. Look for more information and photos in the coming days. When the chest contents were finally auctioned in December 2022, the combined price of all the items was $1.3 million. Fenn would pass away just a few months after the chest was found. Flannan Isles Lighthouse is off the west coast of Scotland and is well known for the strange disappearances of its keepers in 1900. Little is known about the fate of the three keepers, and there is little evidence to suggest what could have happened, which has led to rampant speculation and theories. Most likely what happened is that all three of the men were blown off the island due to the horrendous storm that happened just a few days before the discovery. But some strange pieces of evidence would contradict this, mainly the strange logbook that was found on the island. They were written by Thomas Marshall, a man on the lighthouse, and say things such as, "Severe wind, the likes of which I've never seen in 20 years. And the last entry in the logbook was, storm ended, sea calm, God is over all." But guess what? These are fake. Sorry. Yeah, these log entries were found to be fake in a later investigation. But some more plausible explanations for the men's disappearances are 1. A rough wave hit them when they were near the cliffs, or 2. A fight breaking out causing all three men to fall off the cliff somehow. But no one knows for sure what caused the men's disappearances, and it is still shrouded in mystery. This one comes from a local Chicago ghost story that says that one day in the 1920s, a fireman named Frank Leavy put his hand on the window of the fire station and said something on the lines of, "This is my last day," or "I'm dying tonight," depending on what story you hear. And that night, there was a massive fire that killed several firefighters, including Frank. Allegedly, after Frank's death, Frank's handprint was still on the window the next day, and despite the efforts of many, it could not be removed. It stayed there for 20 years until a paperweight accidentally shattered the window. Now, as you could guess, this story is likely fake, but it is based on a real person and events. There was indeed a fire in 1924 that killed a fireman named Frank Leavy, but the part about the handprint is probably a hoax. There are very few photos of the handprint online, and if it was real, I would guess that there'd be a lot more publication and photos of it in the 20 years it was up. But whether it was real or not, the story cemented itself as a key story in Chicago folklore. Frederic Pierre Bourdin is a French serial imposter and has been given the nickname the Chameleon by the French press. This is because ever since his childhood, he has allegedly assumed over 500 false identities. He was born in 1974 and was raised by his grandparents until he eventually ran away and made his way to Paris. His first major impersonation was that of a 13-year-old missing American boy named Nicholas Barclay. Now somehow, Frederic was able to convince the parents of the boys that he was their son, despite the fact that their son had brown eyes and his eyes were blue. His excuse was that he escaped from a child prostitution ring and that they somehow changed his eye color. He was found out 5 months after during an interview when one of the reporters got suspicious and compared the ears of the two boys, finding that they did not match at all. For his crimes, he was sentenced to 6 years in prison. After serving his sentence, he was returned to France, where he would continue his impersonations. The last public information of him is a post from 2017 in which he says that his wife left him and his 5 children. It is unknown if he has quit impersonating people. Greek fire was a chemical weapon invented by the Eastern Roman Empire, and it was made and used from the 7th through the 14th century. It was a very effective naval weapon and would be used in a variety of ways, such as being poured from a tube onto an enemy ship or even put into a bottle and thrown onto other ships like a grenade. It was also notoriously hard to put out, even continuing to burn on water. Despite its prominence back in the day, the recipe for Greek fire is still unknown, and any attempts to recreate by opposing forces during its use would fail. Some modern scientists believe that Greek fire was made up of pine resin, naphtha, quicklime, calcium, phosphide, and sulfur. The Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was a secret society that devoted themselves to the study and practice of occult hermeticism and metaphysics. They were active during the late 19th century and early 20th century. In Great Britain, they were known to focus on the practice of theurgy and spiritual development. You may remember that they were the same society that Aleister Crowley from earlier in the Iceberg joined and learned ceremonial magic from. And he would then take the lessons and practices he learned from the Golden Dawn into his new religion, Thelema. The Golden Dawn was the first of 3 parts or orders within the society. The first one focused on esoteric philosophy, and the second order taught magic, including scrying, astral travel, and alchemy. The third order is a little different, and it was comprised of secret chiefs who were seen as transcendent cosmic authorities and were considered highly skilled in the teachings of the Golden Dawn. And allegedly, they would direct the activities of the lower 2 orders by spiritual communication with the chiefs of the second order. The founding documents of the Golden Dawn are the cipher manuscripts and are written in English using the Trithemius cipher. Written on them are the specifics of the rituals and the curriculum of the specific orders. The Golden Dawn was dissolved in 1903 and has since splintered off into several societies. In 1913, there was an attempt to start the Golden Dawn again, and they lasted until about the 1930s when they started to fall apart, until the 1970s when they were mostly gone. Highgate Cemetery was made in 1832 as one of London's most infamous cemeteries. It has some very well-known names buried there, notably Karl Marx, Douglas Adams, a sci-fi author, James Holman, a pioneer of human echolocation, and Adam Worth. Now this alone is pretty cool, but where things get really interesting is with the many rumors and events that happened at or around that cemetery. One of these is the numerous ghost sightings at the cemetery. The cemetery was made in a hurry, and as a result, some bodies were moved there from their original resting place. According to some believers, because of this rush moving, their ghosts got angry and started to haunt the grounds, and this caused some hysteria to occur, leading to droves of wannabe ghost and vampire hunters digging up the bodies and stabbing them with stakes and taking out their heads, just in case. But those weren't the only people to get involved in desecrating the dead. Some local mischievous kids also took some of the bodies and did some weekend at Bernie's type shit, where they would take the bodies and place them around town. At one point, they even broke into somebody's car and put a headless body into the driver's seat, buckled in for safety. This all came to a head when 2 magicians got into a fight about who's going to hunt the first vampire at the cemetery. One of the magicians announced an official vampire hunt on Friday the 13th, where a mob of hunters from all over London came to hunt vampires. Despite the police's best efforts, the mob made over the fence of the locked cemetery and wreaked havoc. But let's go back to the star of the show, the 2 magicians. They decided that they were going to have a magician's duel to sell their little spat. But unfortunately, the duel never happened because the police caught one of the magicians in the churchyard next to the cemetery with a crucifix and a wooden stake, where they would then arrest him for damaging memorials and interfering with the dead remains in Highgate Cemetery. And what a surprise, neither of these magicians found any vampires. And you wanna know what the biggest plot twist is here? Well, guess when this all took place? Now, I'm sure you could all think, oh, this sounds like the 1800s for sure. It's vampires, magicians? Yeah, that's not now, right? Well, the vampire hunts took place in 1974. This shit was recent, and these 2 magicians still argue today about this. The cemetery is still a tourist attraction to paranormal investigators and fans of the occult. Hong Xiuquan was a Chinese revolutionary and religious leader. He was the man who led the Taiping Rebellion against the Qing dynasty. He established the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom in a large part of southern China, where he claimed to be the Heavenly King. Throughout his life, Hong claimed to see visions. He believed that his celestial father was God, and that his celestial brother was Jesus Christ. He also believed that he was directed to rid the world of demonic worship. Because of these visions, Hong rejected Confucianism and began spreading his own religion, which was a mix of Christianity, Taoism, and millenarianism. He would market this new religion as a restoration of Shangdai, the ancient Chinese religion. His religion quickly grew to over 10,000 members, and soon members of Hong's religion got involved in more and more conflict with the Qing authorities. This all came to a head in 1851 when Hong started a rebel army and began the Taiping Rebellion. Here, he would give himself the title of Heavenly King of the Heavenly Kingdom of Peace. Kind of long-winded, but okay. He would continue to further his influence and even manage to capture the city of Nanjing in March 1853, which he would declare as the heavenly capital. But he would be suspicious of some of his fellow leaders. This would result in a purge in 1856 that would kill a lot of Taiping leaders. Only a few months later, Hong would die of illness and Nanjing would fall shortly after. This one's pretty simple. Jeff the Killer, as I'm sure most of you know, is accompanied by this image pretty famously. It comes from the original creepypasta title, Jeff the Killer, obviously. Now, since the creepypasta and the image became so popular online, you would think we know where this image originally came from, right? Well, it is currently unknown. Yeah, sorry, the search for this is still underway, so take a look at the video link in the description to see how close we are to finding the original image. Who knows, maybe you'll have the final hint to finally find it. Kasper Hauser was a German boy who claimed that he grew up completely isolated from the rest of the world in a dark cell in his house. He appeared on the streets of Nuremberg, Germany, and all he had on him was a letter that was addressed to a cavalry regiment captain. The letter read, "From Bavarian border, the place is unarmed, 1828. The letter was allegedly from whoever raised the boy, and he would state that he received the boy as an infant and taught him reading, writing, and the Christian religion. He would also state that he would never let him take a single step out of his house. The letter then says that the boy wanted to become a cavalryman as his father was. The letter signed off by saying that the captain could either take him or hang him. There was also a second letter that the boy had that claimed to be written by his mother, in a letter that said that the boy's father was a cavalryman in the 6th Regiment and was dead. But oddly enough, both letters were found to have the same handwriting, which led many to think that they were both written by the boy. After being found, a shoemaker would take the boy to the cavalryman captain's house, where the boy would only say, "I want to be a cavalryman, as my father was." After interrogation got nowhere, the boy was taken to the police station, where he wrote down his name. But that was about it, and as a result, the police arrested him as a vagabond, because the boy refused to provide any more details about himself. After being in jail for a while, Hauser would be formally adopted by Nuremberg, and the people of the town would donate money for his upkeep and education. He would live at the house of a local schoolmaster who would teach him many subjects. He would continue until October 17th, 1829, when Hauser was found in the house's cellar bleeding from a cut on his forehead. Hauser claimed that a hooded man came and threatened him, saying, "You still have to die before you leave the city of Nuremberg." He then proceeded to attack Hauser with a knife, so he hid in the cellar. Hauser claimed that the hooded man's voice sounded like the voice of the man who originally brought him to Nuremberg. This attack led to many rumors circulating that Hauser was actually an outcast member of some noble family. This attack resulted in officials transferring Hauser's residence to a municipal authority's house for more protection. The people already suspicious of Hauser said that he slashed his own forehead for pity, and this is where Hauser lived until 1833, until December 14th, when Hauser arrived home with a deep stab wound in his left breast. His story was that he was lured into a garden, where a stranger stabbed him and gave him a bag. When the police searched the garden, they found a violet purse that had a note in it that read, "Hauser will be able to tell you precisely how I look and where I'm from. To save Hauser the effort, I want to tell you myself where I come. I come from blank, the Bavarian border, blank, on the river, blank. I will even tell you my name, MLO. Hauser would die 3 days later because of the stab wound. His death would cause a stir in the local community, with a divide between the believers of his story and the skeptics. This is because the note that was found at the crime scene had both spelling and grammatical errors that Hauser would also make, and was also full in a triangular way that Hauser was known to do. This led the majority of people to believe that Hauser stabbed himself to reignite public interest in his story, and forensic examiners after his death said that it was possible that the stab wound could have been self-inflicted. But although this evidence is very strong that this was self-inflicted, it's still not known for sure if Hauser was telling the truth or not, but the vast majority of people today believe that Hauser was a fraud. Kauai Glass Beach is a beach in Hawaii. The special thing about this beach is that mixed with the grain of sands are millions of tiny pieces of sea glass. The reason for this is that the beach was a very popular dumping ground for trash before the area got an actual landfill. Over the years, the garbage and specifically the glass got sanded down by the beach and collected at the shore, but since then, most of the large pieces were picked by collectors. This still leaves millions of tiny pieces of sea glass shards on the beach mixed with the sand. Further down the beach on the southern edge is where a lot of the larger pieces of garbage get washed up, and some of the larger pieces of sea glasses are even embedded in the lava beds around the area. Kaz 2 is another ship where the crew disappeared without a trace, similar to the Mary Celeste. It was found drifting off the northeast coast of Australia on April 20th, 2007, 5 days after its initial departure with no one on board. Other than a shredded sail and a missing lifeboat, nothing seemed amiss. On the inside of the ship there was food and flour set up, a computer was turned on, and the emergency system of the ship was fully functional. The only thing missing was the crew. When the boat was towed to shore, the authorities searched it for signs of foul play and found nothing. One thing they did find was a sealed container under one of the men's beds that had a gun with some ammunition. But none of this was missing. They also found a video recording of the men acting normally on the ship after its departing on the 15th, and this is all that came of the situation. There were search and rescue attempts in the weeks after the ship's recovery, and no traces of the men were found. Their disappearances remained unsolved today, and the police and public can only speculate on what happened to the men. Some believe that they encountered extremely heavy weather and got thrown overboard, but this doesn't explain how the interior of the ship remained untouched. Another proposed theory is that the men were kidnapped, but this is only speculation. Overall, the situation remains unsolved today, and only theories have been proposed for the disappearances of the men. Laura Buxton is a name shared by two girls who lived 140 miles away from each other, and have a ridiculous story of how they met. It started when Laura Buxton released a balloon with her name and address on it. The balloon then proceeded to float 140 miles away and land in the backyard of another girl named Laura Buxton. But the coincidences don't end there. Laura Buxton somehow convinced her parents to go meet the other Laura Buxton, and when they met each other for the first time, they started to realize that they shared so many things in common, it was like they were pretty much the same person. The coincidences were, the two girls wore essentially the same outfit, a pink sweater and jeans. The girls were the same height, which was weird because they were both tall for their age. They both had brown hair and wore it in the same style. They both had 3-year-old black Labrador retrievers at home, as well as gray pet rabbits. They both brought their guinea pigs, which were the same color, and they both even had the same orange marking on them. These similarities caught the attention of some local media, and they were soon reported on. They remain close today, and some weird people online use this story as proof of doppelgangers. I even saw one guy, who was probably shitposting in hindsight, saying that they were escaped government clones. Which, no, that's stupid. It's just a really strange series of coincidences that come together for a pretty wholesome story. Liminal spaces are places that just feel off, for lack of better words. I'm sure you've seen some of these images floating around the internet. These images just have an aura about them that make the viewer unsettled, and usually the images look devoid of life and depict places that should have life completely empty, like a mall at night or a public pool with no one there. 4chan was the ones to popularize the look of liminal images, but examples can be seen in media as far back as the 1980s movie The Shining. It depicts a large empty hotel and is a prime example of a liminal space, but a much more recent example, and probably the most well-known one by this point, is the backrooms. Liminal spaces are used in a lot of different media, including games and internet creepypastas. The Memphis Pyramid is a pyramid-shaped building in Memphis, Tennessee. It was built in 1991 as a 20,142-seat arena. The city of Memphis owned it and is technically the 10th largest pyramid in the world, but it was rarely used for sporting events, and as a result, in 2015, the pyramid reopened as a Bass Pro Shop megastore. It has a Bass Pro Shop, a hotel, restaurants, a bowling alley, and an archery range. And just look at this thing. God, that goes so fucking hard. Ooh boy, time for some astrology. So Mars has two moons called Phobos and Deimos. They are both irregular shapes and were discovered in 1877. They are named after Greek characters. Phobos mean fear and panic, and Deimos meaning terror and dread, which is a fucking hard-ass naming scene. I'm pretty sure that what it's doing on the iceberg is that in 1959, an April Fool's hoax claimed that Dr. Arthur Hayal of the University of Sierras reported that the moons are actually artificial satellites. Because this was a hoax, Dr. Hayal and the University of Sierras were completely fictional, but people are either really stupid or decide to go really hard with the joke, so the hoax gained worldwide attention. So much so that a Soviet scientist named Losif Shklovsky heard about it and thought it was real. He would then repeat this news to his colleagues, and would claim that Phobos was actually a hollow metal shell because of a later disproven density analysis. The HMS Bounty's crew in 1787 were on a mission to get breadfruit from the West Indies. While on their way there, the ship had a 5-month layover in Tahiti. While here, a large portion of the crew started to get attached to the locals, and the ship's captain did not like this and started handing out military punishment. But most of these sailors were new and collectively did not like how strict their captain was. As a result, 3 weeks after they set sail, they decided to seize control of the ship from their captain. They would send the captain and 18 other loyal crew members off the ship in the middle of the ocean. 25 people were left on the ship, including some loyalists kept against their will. While the mutineers decided to split up and settle on Tahiti or Pitcairn Island, the original captain and the remaining crew had to sail over 4,000 miles to reach land safely. He would then start to bring the mutineers to justice. The Admiralty sent a ship out to Tahiti to arrest the mutineers. They would catch 14 of them in Tahiti and would fail to catch the other members who hid on Pitcairn Island. Unfortunately, on their way back to England, the boat they were on ran aground at the Great Barrier Reef. During this incident, 31 members of the ship's crew and 4 mutineers died. Only 10 of the prisoners on the ship reached Great Britain, and in 1772 they were court-martialed. And of these 10, 4 were acquitted, 3 were pardoned, and 3 were hanged. The remaining people not found weren't discovered until 1808, and by that time, only one of them was still alive. His name was John Adams, but at that time, no one really cared, so no actions were taken against him. Descendants of the mutineers still live on both Tahiti and Pitcairn Island even today. The Mystery Spot is a place located outside of Santa Cruz, California, and it's marketed as a gravitational anomaly. The residents at this spot play into this by having multiple exhibits showing the anomalies, but most of these exhibits are optical illusions caused by the unique building angles used and make for some very interesting photos and effects, such as balls appearing to roll uphill and people being able to lean forward more than usual. Oniontown is a very small community of fewer than 25 people in Margarettsville, New York, and they get a bad rap for being overly aggressive to outsiders of the town. While in reality, the small community started getting harassed by people on the internet after a YouTube video went semi-viral where some teens drove up and down the street yelling profanities and cursing at the residents. This started a small trend where people would reenact the video, so I don't really blame them for being a little bit cautious and rude to outsiders. Allegedly, there were reports of outsiders' cars being broken into and their tires being slashed, but to my knowledge, these are just rumors with no backing to them. They are just normal people in a semi-secluded area. God damn, was this the 4th entry on ships in the iceberg? Well, the Ourang Medan is a rumored ghost ship that many people believe became a shipwreck in the East Indies after its entire crew died under mysterious circumstances between 1940 to 1948. While some people believe that the ship is real, many people argue that the ship is just an urban legend because there are no records of a ship called Ourang Medan. The Pentagon UFO videos, as the name suggests, are video recordings that the Pentagon has released occasionally since 2017. They show footage of unidentified aerial phenomenon, and although unconfirmed, many people believe that these videos show proof of extraterrestrial life. Although some other explanations are that the objects shown are foreign aircrafts, drones, or just very strange visual phenomena. Phantom Island is the term used for an island that is included on maps but does not actually exist. These are different from Lost Islands, which did exist at one point but have been destroyed since their discovery. Phantom Islands are usually made as a result of navigational error and mistaken observations, but there have been a few cases where people have deliberately made up an island. Some of these Phantom Islands have remained on maps for centuries before being proven to not exist. The Phantom of Heilbronn was also referred to as the Woman Without a Face, and she was a hypothesized female serial killer who was only thought to exist because of DNA evidence found at a lot of crime scenes in Europe from 1993 to 2009. The strange thing is that the only thing linking these crimes at all was the presence of this woman's DNA. In total, the woman's DNA was found at 40 crime scenes. These crimes ranged from burglaries to murders, which resulted in a €300,000 bounty being placed for information on the Phantom's whereabouts. But in 2009, the mystery was solved when investigators discovered that the woman's DNA was already on the cotton swabs used by the authorities before they were used. Therefore, the investigators concluded that the DNA was from a woman who worked at the factories where the swabs were produced. The Pari Reis Map is a world map made in 1513 by the Ottoman cartographer Pari Reis. It was discovered in 1929 and only a third of the map is still intact, as the other parts have been destroyed or lost. It is currently located in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul. Some people believe that the map shows a depiction of South America, which at that point had not been officially discovered. But this is not known for sure. Additionally, in the 20th century there was a hypothesis that the map also showed Antarctica, but this was later disproven. Poe Toaster is the name given to the unknown person who would visit Edgar Allan Poe's grave on his birthday for several decades. He had a ritual of going to the grave and pouring himself a glass of alcohol. He would then toast to Poe's memory and leave. When he would leave, he would lay 3 roses and a pattern at the base of the grave, along with the unfinished bottle of alcohol. Soon, word would spread of the man's ritual and onlookers would start to gather in hopes of seeing the man, but he was rarely photographed or even seen. According to some locals, the man started doing this ritual in the 1930s and the original toaster would die in 1998, and the tradition would be passed down to a man who the toaster would claim was a son, who in 2010 would suddenly stop visiting the grave, putting an end to the 75-year tradition. But later in 2016, the Maryland Historical Society selected a new toaster to start the tradition again. Rapsittie Street Kids Believe in Santa is the name of a very obscure Christmas film whose plot is as follows. Ricky wants to give his crush Nicole a Christmas gift, but when he does, she angrily rejects it as cheap. She later regrets her mistake and decides to find it. Sounds bad, right? Well, you'd be right. This movie is horrendously bad, and is in the same vein as Cool Cat Saves the Kids. This movie has since become a cult classic, and for some reason, the movie has an incredibly stacked cast, including Paige O'Hara, who was Belle from Beauty and the Beast, Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, and Jodie Benson, who was Ariel in The Little Mermaid. The movie was only aired once live in December 2002, and only a few people saw that initial airing. Since then, it has lived in those people's minds rent-free, and they would tell the internet stories of this hilariously bad movie that is nowhere to be found on the internet, except for the IMDb of the cast for the movie and its promotional material. This started a search to find the movie, led mainly by the founder of the Lost Media Wiki, who would track down the director 13 years after the initial broadcast. The director, whose name was Colin Slater, demanded several payments for a copy of the movie, and Colin would then ghost him shortly after negotiations started. Despite this, a copy of the film was somehow obtained and it was uploaded to the internet in its entirety in 2015. So hey, next holiday season, why don't you put this on for your family?
You just got to for it.
Isn't that what Santa does? It was from my heart.
Oh, see, for the now.
She doesn't get it.
Oh, Christmas.
Red Rain Kerala refers to the blood rain events that occurred in the Wayanad district of Malabar. The rain usually appears to be a very dark red similar to blood, but some other colors have been reported, including yellow, green, and black. These events have occurred multiple times since they first started happening in 1957, and the last time it happened was in 2012. The cause for the colored rain was found after an investigation by the government of India, and the cause was found to be because airborne spores of green algae found in the area were coloring the rain. The Richat Structure is a circular geological feature that can be seen in the Adar Plateau in the Sahara Desert. It is an eroded dome that's 40 kilometers in diameter, and because of that, there are a lot of different exposed rocks and minerals in the structure. Due to it being an incredible geological structure, it was labeled as one of the first 100 geological heritage sites by the International Union of Geological Sciences, and by their standards, it is of highest scientific value. The Sea People are a hypothesized confederation that attacked ancient Egypt between 1200 and 900 BC. The confederation was mainly comprised of seafaring folk, and their attacks became one of the most famous parts of ancient Egyptian legacy. Strangely enough, the origin of the Sea People has been undocumented and is unknown, but a few theories have been proposed, such as that the Sea People came together from several different locations and civilizations. However, modern scholars believe in different theories and hypotheses, and for this reason, the Sea People are still unidentified. One more theory about the Sea People's origins is that they were outcast from their societies who came together and turned to piracy, but keep in mind these are all just theories. Sesame Street 847 is an episode of Sesame Street that was banned for being too scary for kids. The episode was aired on February 10th, 1976, and guest starred Margaret Hamilton, who played the Wicked Witch in The Wizard of Oz. It was about the witch losing her broom in Sesame Street and trying to get it back throughout the episode. Doesn't sound too bad, right? Well, soon after airing this, the company that aired Sesame Street received a bunch of letters from kids saying that they were afraid of the witch, and even some parents chimed in. As a result, the episode was deemed unsafe for children, and was pulled from airing since then. The reason being, and I quote, "Due to the parents' reactions, the contents of their letters, and our impressions from group observation data, we suggest that the Margaret Hamilton show not be rerun." Margaret was very saddened by the news, and because she was an advocate for children's education, she was invited onto the Mr. Rogers show to show kids that the witch was just pretend. And that's where the story stopped until June 3rd, 2016, when a user made a thread about the episode that would reignite interest in finding the episode. They would continue to search for the episode with no luck until 2022, when an anonymous user on Reddit would upload the entire episode online, putting an end to the search. No one knows who leaked the episode, and soon media even started reporting on it. This entry refers to the theory that the Japanese manga/animated movie named Kimba the White Lion was ripped off by The Lion King. Now the video makes it very, very clear that The Lion King did not rip off Kimba, but The Lion King may have taken some very light inspiration from it. In reality, a lot of the comparisons made between the two films are either taken from the Kimba movies made after The Lion King or are taken out of context to support their argument. Despite that, there are still some people online today who think Kimba was robbed by Disney. Slab City is a community in California in the Sonoran Desert. It is called Slab City because it was originally a World War II Marine training camp, and after the war was over, the only thing left were a bunch of concrete slabs. The people who live in Slab City are known for being a little bit weird and wanting to live outside mainstream society, and a surprising amount of them are artists. The Sokal Affair was a scholarly hoax done by Alan Sokal, a physics professor at New York University. The hoax went like this. In 1966, Sokal submitted an article to Social Text, an academic journal. The submission was a test to see if, and I quote, a leading North American journal of cultural studies, whose editorial collective includes such luminaries such as Frederic Jameson and Andrew Ross, would publish an article liberally salted with nonsense, if A, it sounded good, and B, if it flattered the editor's ideological preconceptions. The actual article they submitted proposed that quantum gravity is a social and linguistics construct. They did not practice academic peer review, and they did not submit the article for outside expert review by a physicist. Despite that, the article was indeed published to Social Text. Almost a month after the publication, Sokal would come clean in a magazine about the hoax. The hoax caused some minor backlash both on Sokal and Social Text because it called both of their authorities into question. SpongeBob skin theory is the theory that all the residents of Bikini Bottom all wear skin suits for some reason. This theory became very popular because of this YouTube video which blew up out of nowhere in 2019. And after digging into this way too much, I found that this video was released for the 20th anniversary of SpongeBob. As for why it was created, well, I'll just read out this tweet by the creator. I decided to create this mess one day because I was bored and I have fun editing. Yep, that's about it, just a passion project. The Stone Forest is a location in the People's Republic of China that has very tall rocks that look similar to stalagmites and look a little bit like petrified trees. The large number of these stones create the illusion of a stone forest. It is labeled as a World Heritage Site and a 5A class tourist site by the Chinese government. Tardigrades, also known as water bears or moss piglets, are a species of microanimal. They were discovered in 1773 and have been found in most places on Earth, including mountaintops, the deep sea, tropical rainforest, and the Antarctic. They are one of the most resilient animals on Earth and can survive extreme conditions. There are even some cases where tardigrades have survived being exposed to outer space. Despite their small size, there are just about 1,300 known species of tardigrade. When fully grown, tardigrades measure just about half a millimeter. The blob is a bright yellow slime mold that, because of its strange properties and life cycle, it was originally miscategorized as a fungus. As far as I can tell, that's the only thing off about this thing. I don't know, I'm not a science nerd. If you know why this thing's on here, let me know. The hum is the name given to a hum that some people say they hear while others people claim they can't. Some say the hum is barely audible and some say it's deafening. Reports have come from all over the world and some places even have a local name for the hum. Many different explanations have been proposed for the hum, including tinnitus or industrial power plants nearby. Still, no one is sure about what causes the hum. Some scholars don't even think that the hum is a physical sound and argue that it could be a result of people focusing too hard on innocuous background noise. The Wreck of the Titan, also known as Futility, is a fiction novel published in 1898, the plot of which bears striking resemblance to the sinking of the Titanic. even though it came out many years before that. Now you may be thinking it's really strange that the wreck of the Titan has a name so similar to the Titanic, but this was changed in 1912 to capitalize on the similarities between the Titanic and the book's plot. In fact, the book has so much in common with the Titanic that some people accuse Robertson, the author of the book, as being psychic or having clairvoyance. He denied all these claims, and some modern scholars credit the coincidences to Robert's extensive knowledge of shipbuilding. Thule is the northeastern location mentioned in ancient Greek and Roman literature and cartography. In medieval literature, it was more of a metaphor than an actual location, and meant any distant place that was located beyond the borders of the known world. But by the late Middle Ages, it was the name related to Iceland or Greenland. But by the end of the 19th century, Thule was usually the name given to Norway. The Trans-Allegheny Asylum was opened in 1864 and closed in 1994. While it was open, it was one of the worst places to be committed, because this asylum was full of people. I mean, it was absolutely packed to the brim with patients. The hospital was originally meant to hold 250 patients, but at its peak, it was stuffed with 2,400 people. And it wasn't just full of patients, it was also full of medical malpractice. The asylum obviously had a very bad overcrowding problem. The solution to this was to start performing a large amount of lobotomies on the patients to reduce the overcrowding. Additionally, any uncontrollable patients were kept in cages to keep them under control. In total, the estimated number of patients who have died at the hospital when it was open is thought to be in the tens of thousands, and is still considered to be one of the most extreme examples of what mental wards were like back in the 18th to 1900s. This entry refers to Umberto I, the King of Italy, and how, according to a story, allegedly when the king was visiting a restaurant, a trusted advisor knows that one of the workers at the restaurant looked identical to the king. And we aren't just talking about like a little bit alike, I'm saying they looked so much like it was like there was a mirror in the room. Strangely enough, the next day, the king mysteriously died. Although it is possible the story is true, it is unknown how much of the story is exaggerated. This is likely a case of a story becoming more and more exaggerated as it is told from person to person. Like how in the game Telephone when the starting word is cake, but by the end of it you have somebody reading an entire master thesis on why the blue Korean tastes the best. The story allegedly happened in the 1900s, and the earliest known mention of the story was in 1936. It would later be popularized in the 1954 version of Ripley's Believe It or Not series on the radio. Unfavorable Semicircle was the name of a YouTube channel that would post a large amount of extremely strange videos. The videos were usually 5 seconds long, and I think it's easier if I just show you what they look like. They look like this. So yeah, pretty odd. Shortly after they began posting, the account was suspended for violating YouTube's TOS. This is likely because at their most active they were posting 2 to 3 videos every minute. After a while, more people started finding out about the channel, and soon enough, even some mainstream news organizations were covering the channel. Despite that, there is no good conclusion on who made it or what its purpose was, although some theories have been proposed, such as it being an ARG, some sort of recruitment program, and some people have suggested that these were alien messages. And of course, my personal favorite theory, they were just trolling. Vesna Vulovic is the name of a Serbian flight attendant who holds the record for the highest fall without a parachute. She was the sole survivor of the mid-flight airplane explosion caused by a suitcase bomb in January 1972 and fell 33,330 feet. After the fall, Vesna was in a coma with serious injuries for days and suffered a fractured skull, 3 broken vertebrae, broken legs, broken ribs, and a fractured pelvis. Because of these injuries, she would stay in the hospital for several months, and she was temporarily paralyzed from the waist down. Despite her injuries, she made a nearly full recovery, and she was able to walk again with a limp. Due to her incredible story, the media obviously started to write about her, and she was soon hailed as a national hero. Viper is the stage name of the rapper Lee Arthur Carter, and he is known as one of the original artists of cloud rap. I think he's on the iceberg because of his absurdly long discography. He has released over 100 albums, and he was known for re-releasing the same song over and over with different effects on them. And just look how long this shit is. But I say he was known for that because very recently, on January 4th, 2024, he was arrested for allegedly keeping a pregnant woman captive in his garage for several years. He was released on January 8th after making bond, and on the same day as his release, the police would make a statement that earlier in July 2023, they found a different woman's body at Carter's residence, but that body is completely unrelated to kidnapping. Viper would later have his bond revoked after violating court order and trying to contact the girl repeatedly. An arraignment was supposed to be held on February 13th, but might have been changed because of this violation. And as of writing the script, we know almost nothing of the police investigation, and only have access to some very limited text conversations. Now keep in mind, this is currently an ongoing case, and I do not want to directly say any opinions. You will have to look into this one yourself to form your own opinions. Who knows, maybe some new evidence came out while I was working on this video. So go look it up and tell me in the comments. The Voynich manuscript is an illustrated codex that is around 240 pages and is written in an unknown script. It has been carbon dated from around 1404 to 1438, but the author, origin, and purpose of it are still a mystery. Some theories behind its purpose is that it is a work of fiction, a form of cryptography, an undeciphered codex, an undeciphered code, or maybe it was a hoax. And up until now, any attempts to decode it have resulted in failure. The name comes from Wilfrid Voynich, a Polish book dealer who purchased the book in 1912, and since 1969, it has been held at the Voynich Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Yale College. Weirdcore is an aesthetic that is characterized by low-quality images that induce a feeling of confusion, dread, alienation, and nostalgia. But weirdcore isn't just used in photography. It has also been used to describe other works of art, such as music or video games. Now, some of you may think that weirdcore is purely horror, but depending on who you ask, weirdcore can be funny, nostalgic, or even comforting to some. Wenceslao Mogul Herrera was a Mexican soldier who survived execution by firing squad in 1915. He was shot 8 to 9 times in the body and 1 shot to the head to ensure his death. Against all odds though, he survived. However, he was left permanently scarred by the event. No one is sure exactly how he survived, but there are 2 main stories told. One is that he was found unconscious along with the dead bodies of his fellow soldiers, and another story is that he somehow escaped and crawled to a church 3 blocks away, where the members of the church helped him recuperate. His story was popularized in Ripley's Believe It or Not radio show in 1937, and he would die in 1976 at 79 years old. The World Economic Forum is an international non-governmental organization based in Cologne, Switzerland. Their stated goal is improving the state of the world by engaging business, political, academic, and other leaders of society to shape global, regional, and industry agendas. They are well known for their annual meetings at the end of January, which are held at a mountain resort in the Eastern Alps of Switzerland. About 3,000 members attend these meetings, and the organization has had some controversy and conspiracy theories about them, because of the lack of transparency about what is discussed at these meetings. Some people even believe that this is a New World Order type situation. It's this. That's it. Don't lie and act like you've never seen this video before. Don't really know why it's on the iceberg? Probably because some people find it creepy? I don't know. Has a lot of views though. The Yangsheng Salt Lake is a lake in China that has become popular on social media as an interesting backdrop. Funnily enough, the Chinese government is trying to capitalize off this and make the lake into a full-blown tourist attraction. It is one of only a few salt lakes in the world as a closed basin, meaning that it does not flow into a river or ocean. And currently, the Chinese government is trying to get the lake recognized as a World Heritage Site. Yvette's Bridal Formal is a website for a probably fake company that has a shit ton of weird stuff on it. On the website, you can keep on going down links and finding images that seem very out of place. But if you keep going deeper into links, then you will get more and more weird pages, such as some pages about demonic possession. I can't even guess why this website was made, and I strongly recommend that you explore it for yourself, because goddamn is it a trip. Hey, this is more math shit that I don't understand, so I'm gonna read off the Wikipedia article word for word. Zipf's law is an empirical law that often holds. Approximately, when a list of measured values is sorted in decreasing order, it states that the value of the nth entry is inversely proportional to n. The best known instance of Zipf's law applies to the frequency table of words in a text or corpus of natural language. It is often found that the most common word occurs twice as often as the next common one, 3 times as often as the third most common one, and so on. For example, in the Brown corpus of the American English text, the word "the" is the most frequently occurring word, and itself accounts for nearly 7% of all word occurrences. True to Zipf's law, the second place word "of" accounts for slightly over 3.5% of all words, followed by "and." It is often used in the following form, called Zipf-Mandelbrot law. Hey there, so you may be asking where I am. Well, I thought since this is the last entry for the video, I might as well change up the scenery. So that, right over there, is the Stuart Gardner Museum, and is the scene of our next and last entry. Right here in March 1990, 13 works of art were stolen. The robbers achieved this by doing some Looney Tunes type shit and dressing up as police officers. They would then pretend to respond to a disturbance call and tie up the guards inside the museum. From there, they would take whatever they want for the next hour. The case remains unsolved today, and there were no arrests made, and none of the stolen art has been recovered. Currently, the FBI believes that a criminal organization likely planned the heist. They even said possibly it was the Boston Mafia, but nothing came of this, and the art is still missing to this day. Currently, the museum offers a $10 million reward for any information that leads to the recovery of the art. Well, that just about does it. We are finally through Tier 2 of the iceberg. Only took 2 months. Well, that's besides the point. I had a lot of fun making these videos, and I will keep at it. So I'll be sure to keep working hard. Well, that's about it. I'll see you next time. They're multiplying.